Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I know we have several still popping in. If you can and are able to turn your camera on, would be awesome. It was 100% Dana's fault, no one else's fault, that we had a kind of a screw up on the social media graphic with the date. So some people thought it was yesterday. So we're recording, and that way. Hold on, sorry, I'm just trying to mute when I can. Okay. We're recording, and so for those of you that couldn't be on today, we'll make sure that we send it out to everybody. There's Jenny, she's back. Okay, awesome. So I know many of you have probably heard of the BuiltHOW event that is put on originally by Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez, and then I think it kind of it originally started for think their podcast, right? And then it's inevitably grown since then. And I was so bummed I did not get to go this year because several of my favorite speakers were there. So I thought, okay, I'm really dying to hear everybody else's ahas from there too. So I thought this might be a great event for us to have. And I know we have 3 lovely ladies on to share for you guys. And then hopefully Lucas will be able to pop on too. He had a conflict that he was running late teaching, so if he gets on, we'll have him share too. But we have all actually from the same area. Ironically, we've got Melia Hord, Robin Jones, and Jenny Mateyoke on. So thank you guys for being here. Okay, really no rhyme or reason. We'll just kind of go. I had a couple things. I know there were some really great speakers, but anything you guys want to add to. But I wanted to start with, and you guys just jump in, like whoever wants to go first, go. What did you guys hear and learn just about the industry and the state of our market right now, where we're headed? Anything industry and market related that you can share? Let's start with that.
Well, I mean, we did hear from leading economists from Goldman Sachs.
Yes,
and
we would love to hear about that.
Well, and I'm flipping through my notes. I didn't expect you to go so deep so fast on that one. But it certainly was a lot of the same message throughout the conference. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong, Melia and Robin, but it's basically, we're expecting a really good spring and summer market, but it's going to get tough when we go into fall, and then it's going to get even harder as we go back into winter. So kind of make hay while you can and double down on your lead generation activities now. You know, I think overall Goldman Sachs still had a very strong outlook for our industry. And I was trying to find my notes very specific to that, because they spoke quite a bit. And if you know, Melia, if you took some great notes there, I would say just chime right in. But overall, he said, you know, you have a lot of people that are psychologically just trying to adapt to these higher interest rates. And
Right.
Once they are able to connect a little bit better with that and realize that these aren't horrible interest rates. I mean, my first house was 6.875 back, 25 years ago. So it's not horrible. One of the biggest issues that I heard was affordability is the big issue. He said, anything above a 100 score makes it more affordable. So in 2021, the affordability score that they had was 135, and today it's 70. So affordability is a big factor.
Did they say what? Go ahead, Melia.
Well, and I think what happened is, what's amazing is Jenny and I are part of Place, which is a marriage of the top 1% of the agents across the nation. And Goldman Sachs is one of our partners. We had 2 different people from Goldman Sachs, one from the equity side, one from like our investment side. And when Paul was talking with us with the growth funds, you really have to go back to what is the state of the economy right now?
Yeah.
If we go back 2 or 3 years, we were in COVID, and in early 2020, right? The economy was doing so well. Unemployment was a 50-year low. And then we completely shut it down overnight, which has never happened in the history of the United States. So, our GDP growth plummeted. But the good thing about it is Congress came together to bridge that gap with cash flows, because there was such this massive disruption. And what we've never seen before too is Congress actually came together put out multiple bills that created a stimulus to the economy, which sent the GDP 15% up, which hadn't been done since World War II. So we all came together. We saw inflation go down, but we saw $4.7 trillion in the stimulus money being sent out, which jacked the prices up, made the rates, they had to watch the rates. And what they did is they stemmed inflation from all this, right? And we are in this combattery of, are we in a recession or not? And quite honestly, everyone within place in Goldman Sachs says, yes, we are in a recession, right? Had to raise the rates in order to stop the growth that was out of control. And so now we're in this recession of where we've been there for 2 quarters, and we have to look at things a little bit differently. The rates are where the rates are going to be, right? We project potentially there may be a slight rate increase. Everybody talked about the Silicon Valley Bank, where it crashed and burned and the government had to come in and take it over with that survivorship. But what it did for the actual market is it stimulated the mortgage market end of things. So we are seeing that the banks are lending the money. There is a lot of money to be lent, but what we're going to see is the home prices will across the board drop about 6%. We project in our market here in Kentucky, which is so strong because we have healthcare, we have the horse racing, we have the horse sales, we have the SEC, we have the higher education, we have the lower education that will keep us a very marketable place for investors and home ownership. We don't think we're going to see that drastic drop in the home prices that you're going to see in Arizona, in California, in New York, in Chicago, but we are going to see that the inventory is going to stay low because people, more than 60% of the people that have a home right now and are under a mortgage are under 4%.
Yeah. Okay. I want to pause on one thing, a couple of things, because you said a lot of stuff. I want to make sure that people know, which is great. I just want to make sure that people know. And when we're rocking and rolling and Abby's going to put in the chat, the industry update from last week, I shared all of the Silicon Valley Bank slides that Gary Keller gave us. Like everything was in that industry update from last week. But when we're rocking and rolling as a country, our inflation is right around 2%. When we've been at 7, 8, and 9%, that's why we feel out of whack with everything. And the only way to fix that is to drive up the rates. So it seems like what they're saying is a lot of what we keep hearing and we keep saying in the industry updates every month too. They're going to raise the rates until inflation comes down, and that's the only way to do it. And then I want to make sure, if you don't, oh shoot, you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but we gave this to our offices, but I want to, let me turn this off for 1 second. I want to make sure, because you just said something really great, Melia, about the rates. Everybody should be using this annualized mortgage rates sheet in all of your listing presentations, your buyer presentation, everything, because this gives perspective. People think, oh my gosh, if it's not 3, then forget it. I don't ever want to buy again. When the reality is that since 1972, the average interest rate is 7.81. We just have to give our people perspective back.
And I think that's right. I think we have to have better conversations as agents and leaders in this industry that guide our clients to buy, sell, build, and invest. We have to change the conversations that we've been having over the last 2 to 3 years. It was, did you answer your phone, right? People were buying left and right because the rates were so low, and 98% of the people in America will see that buying a home is the best purchase that they can do. However, now we're in a situation where we have to share the value of being a homeowner, right? Homeowners are what, 450% more net worth than somebody that just rents, an apartment or a home. We have to have the conversations that, out of the 6.1 million sides of transactions that we had in 2021, which means there was 12 million transactions, 6.1 buyers, 6.1 sellers, there's 12 million transactions. We're looking that those transactions are maybe going to be 4 million this year. That's still 8 million sides across the nation. And out of that, 22,000 agents are the ones doing those transactions, right? So 22,000 teams are doing half of those transactions out of what? How many agents are there, Dana? 3 million? So that 80-20 rule of 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. It's now 10% of the agents are doing 90% of the business. We have to be better at what we're doing.
And you guys remember too that NAR is predicting between 350,000 and 450,000 realtors will get out of they'll lose. NAR will lose this year. Robin, did you have anything?
30 within the first 2 months, 30,000.
32,000. Yeah. Yeah. Robin, did you have anything on industry, anything different than what they added?
No, I think they've summed it all up. I think honestly, what I took out of it, I came into this like I am not a member of Place, and Jenny just very kindly invited me along. So it was actually, I've already registered for BuiltHOW for September of this year, but I think my huge takeaway, and I always believe this, is that in the middle of chaos lies opportunity. And I just think it's such a good, like they just keep reiterating, it's not a time to just keep throwing money into it, like sharpen up your skills, like be good at, do the work, like make the phone calls. Like that's so important right now. It's so skills based. I just think it's super important.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, what do you guys want to move to next? You were there, you heard the speakers. I don't care whatever order. Unreasonable Hospitality has probably been like one of my favorite books. I read it at the end of last year. I've given so many people, and when I saw that he was having him, I was like, ah!
Oh, Dana, I told you that, it's funny because Ben Kinney even commented that everybody was going to be talking about Will Guidara, and he was fantastic. And if you guys haven't read that book, it is so good. We're reading it as a team right now. And just for me, it was, well, his presentation, I don't know about you ladies, but I could have listened to him talk all day. Like he could read me to sleep at night. He just had this calming presence about him. And he's, in one of the toughest industries in the dang world, which is hospitality and a restaurant. And so just hearing him speak was amazing, but his message was so enlightening and just refreshing from the standpoint of, like he said, bring joy to the people around you. I mean, that sounds so simple, but it's true. And then he said, one thing I loved about how he kind of applied things towards the real estate industry, because so much could be taken from that because it is so hospitality based, to the industry that we're in, which was they broke down every single piece of what they do in that, when somebody comes in the front door, when they call on the phone to make a reservation, when they get to the restaurant, how they do all the things. And he's like, you as an industry, you as a person providing that service, break down every single step of the process and how you serve your clients. And that's one thing we're going to do as a team, is really look at that from the second we say hello on the phone till we set them up, till we do a buyer consultation, till we do a listing presentation. What does that look like? And how can you tweak it every step of the way to make it so amazing? So for example, if you think about going to a restaurant, they got rid of the receptionist right there at the front. He said, you walk into a restaurant, the first thing you have is the hostess stand, and it's a barrier. It's a barrier between you and your customer. So they kind of do a little stalkery kind of thing. You call and you schedule, or you book your reservation, and there's only, I think he said 5 people coming in, or 5 groups of people coming in like every 15 minutes or whatever it is. So there's not a lot of fresh faces. So they'll get online and find out who has the reservation. They'll look for pictures of you. So when you come to the restaurant, they're like, oh, hi, Ms. Gentry. It's so great to see you today. We've got your table here ready shortly. And they kind of had a secret code with the other person that was going to take them. Don't say take them to table 70. They kind of create their own little sign language that automatically created them just taking them straight to the table. And so it was so cool. And even like he said, when you would do the bill, in presenting the bill, the timing of it is always such a kind of a conundrum kind of thing. Like you don't want to make people feel rushed,
Right.
but you as a consumer, as soon as you're finished eating, you want that bill and you're ready to go. So you don't want them feeling like that. He said, so they would literally bring a bottle of cognac to the table with the bill and say, have a glass on us, pay when you're ready, no rush.
Wow.
And he said, now
that.
a couple of times it backfired. He had to pay for an entire bottle of cognac, but most people would just pour a little glass, have a little drink, pay their
And pay
bill
their
and not
bill.
feel rushed.
Wow.
And I just thought, when you think about some of those things, it was so simple, but can you imagine if you didn't feel rushed or if you weren't waiting on your bill and it was just something very simple that they added to the process? And so his overall message was removing the transactional piece to it and making it more about an experience.
Yeah.
Well, and Jenny kept saying too, the word feel. And I think that was the thing that hit me the most, is that they kept the message is it's not what you say, because you can say all the right things and still not make them feel right.
Yep,
So,
yep.
to celebrate all the things and make them, it's how they'll remember how they feel, not really, they don't care what you say. It's
Yep.
how they make them feel.
I think that's
Well,
a
and
Zig Ziglar quote.
Well, and he said at the end, he said, "You're an intimate part of people's most intimate spaces."
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that just really resonated with me.
And, I hear agents say a lot, oh, I bought a home. Oh, I just sold a home. We don't do that. We build relationships.
Yeah.
And I felt like Will really focused on what do we do? Our role is to make people feel seen, right? We're to make it all about them. So what can we do on an everyday basis in our role as their agent, their advisor, if we knew we couldn't fail? Take our
Yeah.
role and gamify it, right? Make it fun, make it a fun game that everyone loves winning, not only within your team, within your brokerage, within your community, to make this feel like we are doing it all for them. We're building that relationship. We're not selling leverage. We're selling time to them, right? We're not selling a home. We're not selling a house. We're selling people a home that they're
Yeah.
building life. We have to be that dream weaver, right? And he used that word a lot about being that dream weaver and creating the dream weaver moments for our clients that they're going to feel seen and heard and make this an entire experience. And so instead of calling it a transaction, what dream are you creating and fulfilling for the people that are coming to you for that process, right? If we make people feel like they matter more than the actual house, they'll refer you business over and over again. And we see that as people in the business. Referrals are the biggest part of our growth right now, and making them feel important, making them feel that everything that we do is unreasonable. Anything that they ask us to do is something that we've already thought about or we want to do for them, right? We're not just checking the boxes.
Yeah.
Hey, we wrote the offer, we got the inspection done. It's providing the experience for them and making everybody feel good about it in that transaction.
And like Melia was saying about like the referrals, like never count anybody out. Like the person that you least expect, like it could be the smallest transaction. Like if you treat them a certain way, they're going to be the ones, maybe not be the $1 million buyer, it might be the $100,000 client that sends you 25 clients or 25 referrals. So I just think making that equal experience for everyone across the board is so important.
And also your team, right? I loved how he brought that into that team environment, like empower your team when they have a great idea, let them own that, right? Even if they're the brand new agent in your team, as well as the one that's been in your team or in your brokerage that's been there for a long time. Everybody has great ideas. Empower them to be, like he talked about, like the young guy that became the beer steward, right? Will knew nothing about beer, but this guy loved it. Find that passion within your team and diversify and let them be the one to run that part of it, to grow and offer more services to your clients, your brokerage, and your community.
I love that. I want to just say a couple of things that you guys said. So I can't remember, I think maybe it was Jenny, but when he said you are an intimate part of people's most intimate, like how much more intimate is it when they buy a house or when they're selling? I mean, that's the largest financial purchase most people ever make in their lives. So that is great. And then the second thing, talking about the dream weaver and never counting anybody out, as we go into a slower market, as the market shifts, and just because there's less opportunity doesn't mean your opportunity is less. This is a perfect time to go back in and like break down all your systems. Like you said, Jenny, figure out how you can make people's, create those dream moments for them. How you can make it a better experience to get referrals, because when you do have more time, it gives you a little bit more time to be able to do things like this, that then in the long run will be what will have you gain market share in a shift, not lose market share in a shift. So I just think all that is so timely, because if any of you are freaking out about like, I don't have as many pendings as I normally have, or I'm not projecting as many closings as I normally have, don't use that time to like pity party. Use that time, to be focusing on some of these things that will actually bring you more business in the long run. Yeah, Karen, I love that. She said, I like the perspective of giving the 100,000 buyer the same service you give a million. Everyone deserves opportunity. So true. Yes, so
And
true.
Dana, one other thing that Will said that I wrote down that really stuck with me is create magic in a world that needs more magic.
Love that. Yep.
Because, it was some of the same message that Brennan Bouchard brought to us, which was there's a lot of discouragement in the world.
Yep.
And that was his big word, is discouragement. And how do you work through that? And I was hoping too that Lucas would be on here, because Lucas had one of the best presentations about chaos.
He was going to share it today. So if he doesn't hop on, he's going to come back and just do it for a full hour.
And it's so worth it, because I shared that with my team today, because we joke about all that's going on with me between a car wreck and a knee surgery and all the things. And I just keep laughing about it. I'm like, what are you going to do? How are you going to show up in the chaos? And it's like, woo, every day showing up in chaos.
Yeah.
I love when Brendan talked about the discouragement.
Let's move to Brendan. Yeah, let's move to Brendan, because I love him. Okay, go ahead, Melia.
So he talked a lot about that emotional energy of the world is discouragement, right? And most of us don't even realize it. But when there's clarity and you don't do what you're supposed to do, you feel discouraged. And at some point during the day or the week or the month, we all feel discouraged, but it's our job every day to shift our energy from that discouragement in ourselves and then with people around us, right? If we live in that discouragement and we delay our action, and then we become more doubtful, right? And then we become non-congruent, and then we don't become who we are. So it's almost like a vicious circle, right? When you're discouraged, you delay things and you become doubtful, then you're not congruent, and then you're not who you are. And it's even more frustrating when we hold ourselves back, right? Then we get into that world of judging people, blaming people, instead of just focusing on ourselves and what we can do best. So he did a little exercise for us just to re-energize our spirit, re-energize our confidence, because there's always going to be chaos. There's always going to be frustration in our lives. We just have to own our energy. Having energy is a choice. It's not something that we wake up with. It's not something that, it's just going to happen to us. We have to make it happen to us. We have to be the one to empower our own happiness and our own energy. We have to share that with other people, right? Because in this moment, when, what's the energy going to, when you go into a situation, you should ask yourself, what kind of energy do I need today? He has a phenomenal planner. If you haven't seen Brendan's planner, I highly recommend it. It's been the best investment for myself. But every morning it's who's going to suck the energy out of me? And I write that person's name down, and who needs my energy today? And I start my day thinking about these time sucks that I have to be prepared for, because when they happen, I already know how I'm going to react to it. So think about that. Read, meditate. That's what he talked about. Pray, self-talk. It's just all those things to make us a good person that will carry forward into our business.
And I think also a big thing for me that I took away is that centering yourself daily, like creating a daily habit of just finding your center, getting your good perspective, because especially if you lead a team or you lead any group, like those people feed off of you. Like if you don't have a good attitude and a good perspective, like it's infectious. It just spreads. And so creating a daily habit, like whether that's meditation or exercise. So that was a big thing that I took home and I'm implementing now, is just creating that daily habit. Because right now, like Jenny and I walked away from one of the sessions and I was like, discouraged. Like I never use that word. Like that's just not really in my vocabulary. And just the fact that so many people are discouraged out there, I just think our perspective and our attitude. So for example, whether you go into a meeting or a big thing that I do, like going to a listing appointment, like you have to, like I notice my performance if I don't set my mindset correctly, like whether it's listening to a positive podcast or rehearsing scripts or role playing with myself in the car, like whatever that is, like it just, that mind shift and centering yourself before you go into something, it spreads quickly.
Yeah, he did say we have one job every day, and that is to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you going to do today to be the best version of yourself? Because that's really your only job. And I thought that was like really cool, especially if you are being challenged and having that chaos in your life. It's how are you going to get back to center? I mean, he literally drew a circle with you in the center and then had all these squigglies on the outside. And he's like, this is all the noise. Like, how are you going to get rid of the noise and just get back to center so you can be the best version of yourself to show up for your family, your friends, your kids, your employees, your team, like, you know, your fellow coworkers. So
What was
I
it? What was
Yeah.
the exercise that he did, Malia? I mean, was it too long?
It was, we had to get up and it was, oh my God. We had to get up and we had to shake our arms and we had to point at one thing. And then he took us like this and we had to point as far as we could this way and then come back center. And then we had to point this way. And after that, he made us like rub our arms, pat the back of our,
cup
We're back.
he made us
in the
squat.
lower back.
Made a squat, and these were all like simple little exercises you can get up and do every 50 minutes. And then we went back and we did this again, and every single person could just move a little bit further than
Wow.
the last time. And it just, I think it really struck back to those three things that he talked about, is show up every day with a good attitude, right? Because we get to change. We only get a second to change, right? But if we show up with that attitude, it defines our perspective on the day, right? And if we forget to show up with a good attitude, it's going to show, right?
Yeah.
And a big one. And always be solution focused. He talked about that, right? What's going to move your needle, right? If you're focused on this, then all your attention is going to go here. But if you're going to focus on the negativity and the discouragement, your needle's going to move there. So focus on the solution that you want instead of running from your problems. And then be persistent, right? Show up for that, hire people for that, work with the clients that are like that. Those are the three things that you can take away and change every single day.
I love
I
that.
think
Go
I
ahead,
think
Rob.
as agents, sometimes we are, sorry, Dana, as agents, sometimes we are so focused on whose fault it was and what happened and being solution focused, like
Yeah.
that helps us all move forward and take the negativity out of it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of poor Sarah, you guys, this week is the second time. I don't know why she keeps getting these, but is the second time that she's getting 2% to the buy side only. Like that her people want those houses. Those are like the only houses that they want. And this is the second one. And I'm like, okay, well, how can we focus on something positive out of that? But it's like there are all these little situations that pop up throughout the day, a day in the life of us that require that. But everything you guys just said just reminds me of one sentence from John Maxwell, and he always says, "Attitude is the difference maker." That's it. I mean, like it is. Your attitude is the difference maker. And so I love hearing anything else from Brendan. I forgot, Malia, about his planner. And
Oh my God,
I need to go back.
yes, it is the best plan. I
Yeah.
think it's worth every penny. I
Yeah,
love
I
Ben
gotta-
and Jerry. Can we talk about Ben and Jerry?
Oh yeah, Ben and Jerry. Yes, talk about Ben and Jerry. I had Ben and Jerry's last night, ironically.
Oh my
At the
gosh.
10
First of all, the ice cream is to die for. What I loved about them is that it just showed, for me, it showed the power of partnerships, right? Friendships, partnerships, they get you through all the tough times. And a couple of things that really resonated with me was, they met when they were 12 years old. They were
They're not related, right?
They're not related. They've been
Okay.
best friends since they were 12 or friends for 12. I mean, Ben failed out of 4 colleges. Jerry didn't make it into medical school, but they learned that you have to have the basics and you have to start with fundamentals. That was my first takeaway, right? And anything you do, get the basics right. And they said for them, it was getting vanilla right. If you didn't have it right, you might as well just kiss the whole industry away from them, right? And
Wow.
the second thing they talked about is, which I loved, because they didn't have a clue what they were doing, right? They just kept trying things until it worked. And it was taking a lot of small steps. And as agents building a business, just get started, right? Show up every single day and do one activity, right? We have 5 activities as an agent: lead generate, lead follow-up, negotiate, show up to appointments, negotiate and write offers, and script practice. If you do those 5 things every single day, you're going to be a GOAT, greatest of all times. That's the difference between a great agent and an agent that just, does 1 or 2 deals a year. Do something every single day. And that's what they did. They didn't have a lot of money to do things. They just did what they could. And then they said, what was the important secret to them having a strong partnership? It was the friendship always came first, right? Making sure that that was important. It was having that foundation of trust and knowing that the person whoever felt most strongly about it got their way. And I think Will also talked about that, is sometimes it's going to be more important to your partner, your spouse, a team member, someone in your brokerage. Sometimes it's more important to them. Let them have that. All they need to say is, it's important to me, and let them have it.
I love that. That might be one of my favorite things so far. That
Yeah,
you guys
that was Adam.
Yeah.
But you can't over abuse it either, right? But sometimes it's enough for someone to say, we need to do this because it's important to me. We need to do it because it's important for the client. We need to do it because it's important for the growth. Let that be enough reason to let it go. You don't have to win at everything.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Robin, Jenny, do you guys have anything else from Ben and Jerry?
They were so awesome. Yeah. Oh, what is it? He said, assume everything's going to fail, right? If you walk into it, failure is an option, right? Most people stop because of failure. Let failure be your growth.
I thought both Ben and Jerry and Jamie Kernlima were just like, they hit so many obstacles. They had so many opportunities.
Oh my gosh,
stop,
yes.
And they didn't, they just quit. So the tenacity, like, I just think that the grit, like, mind blowing.
Yeah. When I heard Jamie, oh, sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I heard Jamie the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, because you guys remember, I don't know if she shared this, I'm sure she did, but that they went to like 23 banks and got a no. I mean, and I'm thinking, like, how many people would go to that many banks and get a no that many times and keep going? Like, I mean, it's just never giving up.
Yeah, she's very inspirational.
Yeah. At one point she said, I have $1,000 in the bank. Like, everything is on the line. Like, it's like, I have to do this or like get out. And she just, I don't know, she just kept going. It was amazing. And
now she lives next door to Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Oprah's her neighbor.
Yeah, it's crazy to get told no by 23 banks and then sell your company for $1 billion with a B. I mean, that's
1.2 billion.
Right. Yeah. Over $1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny, were you going to say about Ben and Jerry?
Well, actually, I was going to move into, because it kind of made me think about what Melia was saying with Brian Gubernick. And I know you're a huge Brian Gubernick fan.
I'm a huge Brian Gubernick fan. Yep.
So he has a really great podcast that he just launched, and it's only like 5 minutes in the morning. It's fabulous. I was like, oh my gosh, I could listen to something for 5 minutes.
Love that.
And his podcast is called No Days Off. And it's really not about not having a day off of work. Think about it as it's no day off of what you can do to improve yourself. What little tiny thing can you do today to improve yourself? And he was saying, because it goes along with the lines of, not failing, is successful people do what failures don't want to do. And so when you think about it, they build those habits around all the things that it's not fun. I forget what does Gary say? Success is
Going from failure to failure over again, and not.
well, no, success is something. It's not it's simple, but not easy.
Yeah,
There's something like that
too. There's a lot of things Gary says.
Right. And I think about that. And then it's, it's really boring. If you think about every single day you're getting on the phone and every single day you're doing these things, every single weekend you're doing an open house. But I mean, that's how I built my business, was I got really good at open houses. And so I challenged my team too, to say, what one thing are you going to do that you're just going to master and crush it? And that's going to be your lever in the lead generation world.
Yep.
But I think that was what was so interesting about Brian's whole perspective, was what one little thing can you do today to improve yourself? He said, relationship, what one little thing can I do today to make my significant other happy? What one thing can I do today for my health? Walk 20 minutes. He said, what's 20 minutes in your day? He said, what thing can you do personal? What can you watch? What can you listen to? What can you read?
Love that.
So he said, no days off, time is finite. Every day brings new opportunity to be better at something, no matter what it is. And his podcast, the one that he did about asking those better questions, is so good, because sometimes it's difficult for me to, you talk about the triangle of why is the worst kind of question that you can ask, because it makes people defensive. And then you move up from how to what to why, to who. And he even broke it down in this 5-minute podcast about how you can apply it to your children. And so he said, like, instead of saying, why did you hit your sister? He says, what could you have done differently than hit your sister? Something like that. And then he said, how do good little boys act? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. When I can hear somebody like progress it like that, then it totally makes sense to me about asking questions. So just listening to that this morning, I was like, oh, that makes total sense.
Love that. I'm subscribing to his podcast right now. No days off. Love it.
He talked about that common denominator of success, and he used the example with Albert and Gray, who was an insurance guy. Mm-hmm. Albert had studied the common denominator of success. So the common denominator of success is that secret of success that every individual who's ever been successful does. And he found that it lies in the fact that when you form a habit of doing the things that make you successful, it's the things that failure just doesn't like to do. And how many times do we put off doing something because it's hard, it's not sexy and real? Like, think about it in real estate, it's not sexy, right? Like, going to Jeffrey was having drinks with a client after a closing is sexy, but yesterday we were up in Paris and cleaning out drawers and closets and deflating, beds and picking up nasty stuff, right? Because that's what you need to do to get the listing ready, right? Or, doing the things that aren't fun and take grit, or, are boring, and you're not going to see the instant gratification. If we take a day off from doing those things that aren't fun or are easy to become failure, then we forget that the opportunity that they bring us, and the opportunity that it will help to make our business better, and the opportunity that it will do to strengthen the relationships in our life, are all going to be lost, right? The objective is always to spend time being focused each day to improve in just one small way, and let that small thing compound, like compound interest, right? Let it compound so that we can do something significant through the long game.
Yeah. I think that reminds me of what Gary and Jay always talk about with, like, before your next opportunity, like, let this domino knock over that domino that knocks over the next domino. Stephanie, I know you know what I'm talking about. And it's because what you've done, you've gone so deep at it. And like you said, Melia, it's compounded over time, that then it actually knocks over the next domino, which would be your next opportunity, your next level. I love that. I think all that it's really, truly, that is the common denominator of success. And also, Jenny, goes back to what you said. Sometimes it's boring. And so people don't want to do the same thing over and over and over to be able to have the success, to even give it time to compound.
I felt
Um,
all the speakers kind of tied in together, like and I'm sure Jenny and Robin feel the same way. Like when we really stop and think about the speakers, their message, although they all had something different to share with us, their message really all had the same characteristics and the traits. Like this will roll right into Jamie Kern Lima, right?
Yeah.
She talked about kind of what Ben and Jerry talked about is some of the greatest things are built in the hardest times. Ben and Jerry talked about they didn't know what they didn't know. They were constantly failing forward. And we have to be okay with that. And then Jamie talked about some of those greatest things are built on the hardest times, right? But you learn so much more in those hard times. If you look back in that rearview mirror and you think about all the growth that comes from challenges, you can't teach that. And she talked about, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our self-worth. And I think everyone in the room got silent. Like, wow, right? Our expectations, think about it. We set expectations, but yet if we don't follow through on them, our expectations are really what we accept. So we say we have expectations in our business, standards in our business. We talk about it with our team, but do we really, as individual agents or team leaders or, team owners, do you really keep your expectations here, or do you fall to the level of what your team shows up and gives you, right? We become what we believe in. And if we don't believe we're worthy of what we can have or achieve, you're never going to do it, right? And we get upset when we hear no. And she talked about when you hear no and someone gives you a no, because she heard a lot of no's, right, Jenny? And
she heard a ton of no's. Yeah.
knows, but she realized that was God's way of knowing what she needed. And we have to trust the process. We say that to our clients all the time. Hey, inspection fell through. We got to have a release. Trust the process. Hey, you lost out on a multiple offer. It wasn't meant to be your house. Trust the process. Build that muscle over time. Pay attention to how you feel when someone on social media or someone, unfollows you, or someone on social media bullies you, or someone doesn't give you the press or the recognition you deserve. Use those feelings to push through that ceiling of, that's not going to let me down. No one's going to hold me back. We have to trust ourselves. And when we don't trust ourselves and we're not authentic to what we know is right, in authenticity, we're guaranteed. Nuggets, they all just golden nuggets, didn't they? I mean, like, I think about the things they said and I left there thinking, I can be better. I can do better. The hard that we're about to go through with this shift market is only as hard as we let it be hard, right? Like people back in 2008, that was hard. People before that said it's hard. We hear agents telling us, I don't want to go through this again. Ben and Chris talked about agents calling them up saying, I don't want to do this anymore. This is hard, right? But if it was easy, everybody would be doing this, right?
I was just getting ready to say that. Yeah.
It's different.
So
How
true.
do you show up, right? Who do you want to be? It all goes back to what Will said, what Ben and Jerry said, what Brian Gubenak said, what Ben and Chris said. People from all different industries, we all share the same fears, failures, doubts, achievements. What are you going to do? What are you going to do differently today to be the best person for you, your family, your clients, your community, your brokerage? That's your choice. Where's your energy?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so good. So good. Robin, were you going to add?
My favorite quote that she says is, when you do find your light, because it took her a long time, she says, use it to illuminate the path for others. And I think that is so important. I think that's so important when you find, because it's hard. Things are hard right now. And I just like what she said about be your authentic self. And she was amazing. Like, she had so many cruel things said to her and so much about self-belief. Like, she kept I don't know if you ladies remember, but she kept saying, I kept feeling it in my gut. Like, I felt it, and she would point to her gut. And it's just she said, everybody kept telling me no, but my gut was telling me yes. And I think that really applies to any kind of industry where, especially where you're self-employed, things are scary. You have to listen to your self gut, and you have to know that you can keep moving on. And then when you do find your stride, don't forget other people. Like, just use that light to illuminate the path for others so that everybody can get there. So.
Jenny, you're muted.
My dog's in here snoring, sorry. I love when she said, she asked for feedback from the one guy that she thought was going to be the man that was going to finally say yes to her. And he said, do you really want me to be honest? And he said, I don't think women will buy products from a woman that looks like you. And, basically body shamed her and all the things. And then eventually he called her to say I was wrong. And she kind of laughed and said, I can give you 1.2 billion reasons why you were wrong. I just thought that was just so wonderful for
My
her.
favorite part of her entire talk when she said
that. She's like, I can
it.
give you 1.2 billion reasons why you were wrong. So it was sweet vindication for her.
I just posted on Facebook today about my favorite quote from Grumpy Old Men. It's, the things in life you regret the most are the risks you never took. And I think all of these people talked about risks. And, Jamie had said something about, when you think about failing at something, like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about failing or being rejected? And taking that feeling and that emotion and putting a definition to it, because rejection for her just meant that she was the brave one willing to go for it. It was rejection for her meant that God was protecting her from something she shouldn't go towards. Rejection for her meant that she needed to make a better habit. Rejection for her meant that she had to believe in her, and she had to realize that when she believed in herself, people were looking at her and needed to know that she believed in what she was doing and what she was selling. And that was the most important thing. And I thought that was such a powerful lesson for all of us, because in our business, we get no all the time, right? We hear it, we feel it. We compare our chapter to somebody else's chapter in the industry, right? And that is the thief of our joy. We have to be okay with no and rejection, and know that it's God's protection, or it's us being the brave one to go and dig deeper and go further than we thought we could by hearing that no.
Yep. Love that. So good. I put Jamie's book. She has a great book called Believe It in the chat. I put the name of the book in there in case anybody wants to hear more, learn more from Jamie. She was great. I heard her at John Maxwell's convention 2 years ago, maybe. And she is, very inspirational. Jenny?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I was going to just switch gears really quick, because I know we're going to have to wrap this up. But one of the things that I took away from Gina Ront and his group, they're number one in their market with reviews on Google and Zillow. And he said they did 70 deals last year associated with reviews, that they have so many reviews that people, when they're going to that market. So that's something I would challenge everybody. Are you getting all those reviews from your clients, either in the middle when they're really happy or in the end when hopefully they're really happy? So
Jenny, what platform are they getting their reviews on?
He said Google and Zillow. And then there was another, I forgot who it was. They actually created a website. And if I can find that, I'll share it with you all, because you can easily look up what their website looks like, because when you go to their website, it easily takes you to where you can make reviews for them. We personally use like a link tree that we send out, and people can just hop on it that way. But they were trying to make it a one-stop shop for people to do reviews for them, because they are so critical, just like we all go to Amazon and look at the reviews. And if it has 5 or even have a 4-star, I'm like, it's a 4-star. I mean, it's not even a 4.5. I got to get to 4.5 before I'm going to buy it. So I thought that was something very tangible, because there was a lot of just mindset and focusing on how you can really show up every day. But anyway, that was one really solid takeaway. That's a doable, very, simple task.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. Melia or Robin, did either of you have anything that we haven't talked about yet that was it doesn't have to be from a specific person?
I think what I love about this conference, and I've been to our family reunion conferences with Keller Williams, I've been to Ford coaching, I've been to luxury panels, I've been through different conventions in corporate America. And what I love about this conference and why it's always on my calendar is that, first of all, it's broker agnostic. So it's agents from all over the nation, North America, that are EXP, Compass, Rector Hayden. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be KW, you don't have to be AXP, but it brings in talent across the industry. The panels that we had, it talked about how to be better at lead generation. It talked about how to build wealth. We had tax strategies for both our personal and our professional life. They brought in the top 4 agents across platforms, EXP, real estate, I think Berkshire, the top 4, and they talked about their journey, right? And I think sometimes we need to be reminded that it is a journey. Like, we have a life story. What are we going to write about our life story? Success leaves clues. And these people, the name of the conference is so perfect. It's Built How. How did these people build their business, right? We can learn from their mistakes. We can learn from their successes so that we have the encouragement, the motivation, the tools to go out there and do it for ourselves. Everybody wants different things, but make a plan, make a dream bigger, and then follow it. Not making that decision is a decision in itself, but invest in yourself. Listen to the people around you. And these panels were just top notch that you're not going to get if you just sit safe in your brokerage, in your team, and expect it all to be fed to you. Seek it out, ask questions, call all of us. We'd love to keep talking about this conference and what we learned and what we do. Jenny and I'd love to talk about place, right? I may be the first partner in Kentucky. Jenny may be the third, but we're not the last. Like, this is something that everybody's invited into, to have the tools, the resources, the playbooks to take your business and elevate it to the next level. Because at the end of the day, we all have 24 hours, 7 days a week to do the very best job. And at some point, you need to have a life. You need to make time to feed your soul with prayer, with health, with wellness. And you're going to need leverage to do that. So we'd love the opportunity to talk to you about the conference, to talk to you about place, to talk about what we did right and what we did wrong, and keep the conversation going and have more masterminds with like-minded people.
Yeah, love that. Love that. I'm going to say something about that too, but Robin, you go. Take us
Mine's
out.
just- Mine's just tactical. I like a good piece of something I can implement to my business. So one thing that I loved is that, as agents, and I hate this, like, if we bicker as agents between each other, like, just stay calm through that transaction and a negotiation. So now would be a good time to get your negotiation certification. Like, I thought that was huge. They kept talking about, like, it's all skills-based negotiation. So get that certification, like, work on your negotiation skills, because those are going to be really needed right now. But the other thing that I loved is they said to take the feeling off of your client. So it eliminates the other agents saying negative things about your client. So if I say, I have advised my client doesn't, let's see, instead of saying my client doesn't want to do that, or my client thinks this, say, I've advised that my client to do X, Y, Z. So it's taking those negative feelings off of any kind of
client.
Yeah, any tension between, because the other agent may go back and go, well, that client won't budge. So you just say, I have advised my client. So that takes some of the tension out. So it's
That's
not
great.
so argumentative.
I
I loved that too. I was like, so I've been trying to do that, not very well, but I'm trying really hard.
love that. I think that's great. I love that. Jenny, anything last to add?
No, I was just trying to think of some of the tactile, I can't even say the word now. You know what I mean? Stuff you can implement immediately. And I was just taking that whole review thing, because that's one thing my team and I have just struggled doing. And people love us. They tell us, we love you. You're so great. And then, you know, you don't do anything about it. It's like, you gotta share that so you can build that online presence more.
Yeah, love that.
Well,
Well,
what does Adam always say? Put modesty in your back pocket.
yep. Yep. He sure does. Yes, he does. Lots of Adam-isms to share. I appreciate you guys being willing to share. And sorry for those of you that were looking for Lucas. I'll get him on another time. I think he accidentally just double booked himself, but we'll get him on to talk about chaos, which will be really good. But you guys shared some great stuff. I took a whole front and a back of notes. So great job sharing. Thank you so much. I just put a note on my notes in my phone to check the September dates, because I'm like, I do not want to miss this again. I'm like dying to go.
14th,
When is it?
September 12th to the 14th. Jenny and I can get you guys a discounted ticket if you're interested. We'd love to pass that on.
September
Susan
12th.
Ryan- It's
Awesome.
not one place, it's just all the place partners. That's kind of where we have our partnership meeting before that. And it's just it's going to be in Phoenix. So
Love it.
we
Great
get
spot.
you a half off ticket if you want. It's so worth the investment. It's 2.5 days of just pure golden nuggets to help you soar.
Yeah.
And Dana, I have the Goldman Sachs video, like I recorded that. If I can share that with you. I'm not sure what the quality is, but I can share it.
Yeah, that would be great. We can send that out in our
I can do it for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. We'll send out the recording for everybody that thought it was yesterday, and our bad about that. That was totally Dana's fault, no one else's. So I take the blame. But thank you guys for sharing, and have an awesome rest of your week. Happy Easter, early Easter. Bye. See you guys.